What's up, everyone? My name is Candice Smith, and this is PascoConnect Magazine Community Talk. And yes, unfortunately, tonight's Community Talk has been canceled. Womp, womp, womp. We'll be back next Thursday at 7 p.m. But I did want to bring some information to you all that I've been working on all week. I had a couple of topics that I wanted to discuss with you all in regards to making sure we have all of the accurate voting information because election day is coming up, as well as discussing August as Faith, HIV, and Awareness Day. And I wanted to talk to you about the event MECA is putting on the last Thursday of August. It's going to be a lunch with a workshop, and I'm super excited about it. We're bringing faith leaders and public health service workers together. And so that's going to be a really cool event. And I wanted to drop some information on that and the conversations we're going to be having leading up to it. And then finally, I wanted to get into a discussion on the flock cameras. Yeah, flock cameras have been something a lot of people are talking about. There's been a lot of cases about misuse of the flock cameras by law enforcement officers, and I want to bring awareness to that and discuss it. So I did put a video together, and I'm going to begin sharing them now. So I hope you will stick around to the end. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and get started. Where and how to vote in Pasco County. Your vote is your voice. But before you head to the polls, do you know when, where, and how to vote in Pasco County? PascoConnect magazine is here to help you make your voting plan for the 2026 election cycle. The primary election is Tuesday, August 18th. Polls will be open from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Early voting runs August 8th through August 15th from 10 a.m. until 6 p.m. If you're planning to vote on election day, remember your polling location is based on your assigned precinct. So don't assume your usual location is still the correct one. Check before you go. And mark your calendar for the general election on Tuesday, November 3rd. Early voting for the general election is scheduled for October 19th through October 31st from 7 a.m. until 7 p.m. Before voting in person, make sure you have the required identification. And don't forget to review your sample ballot. Knowing what's on your ballot before you arrive can make the voting process easier. Voting by mail is also an option for eligible Florida voters. If that's your plan, remember that you need to request a vote by mail ballot and return it on time. And here's one of the most important reminders: election information can change. Polling locations, deadlines, and other details should always be verified with the Pasco County Supervisor of Elections before you vote. Visit pascovotes.gov to check your registration, find your polling location, review election information, and make your voting plan. PascoConnect magazine isn't here to tell you who to vote for. We're here to make sure you know how, when, and where to vote, because informed communities are engaged communities. Your vote, your voice, your decision. This is PascoConnect magazine. Stay informed, stay engaged, and make your voting plan. Okay. So that was the first thing that I wanted to discuss with you all was, making sure that you have the best accurate information on voting in Pasco County. You can check out our blog, PascoConnect.blogspot.com, and we do have a 2026 voter guide up and available for you all. So definitely check that out. And this video will be up on YouTube a little later. So as I stated earlier, the community talk that comes at 7 on Thursdays was canceled for this evening. However, I did want to put together this video recording of all of the topics that I was going to discuss with you tonight. So thank you so much for watching the video. Don't forget to like and share um, with your communities so people will know. I wanted to share this again, the acceptable identification needed to go out and vote. So definitely go make sure that you have all of the accurate information. Okay. And before I move on to the next topic, I think I'm going to go ahead and start with the flock camera discussion. I started noticing a couple of news stories coming out about the misuse of flock cameras by law enforcement officers. I think the first story I ran across was in Georgia. So I took note of it. I did look into it. It was three separate officers dealing in three separate events. Then there were a few cases in Florida that's popped up of the same thing, misuse of flock cameras, and I really want to talk about it. I want to talk about this because um, flock cameras is still fairly new. A lot of people just think they're like the red light cameras that's taking a picture of your license plate, if you run through the red light and you take the picture of the license plate so it can identify you, to know, hey, this is the car that ran the red light. Fine. No, these cameras are strategically placed so that you really can't get through certain places. You really can't go through certain counties and a lot of cities without this being documented through these flock cameras, your cars. Um, and unfortunately, this surveillance information and access gets into the hands of people who have their personal situations going on, and they want to watch their wives, their girlfriends, their boyfriends. They want to check up on people, and like, really, police officers are out here getting charged with stalking at this point. And so I do want to go ahead and share this video. It is a little longer, so grab a snack and something to drink because it's a few news clips that's within it, detailing the misuse of the flock cameras. And then I also did want to put a news story in there that discusses the benefits of the flock cameras, how it's helped. And I remember a police chief, I think it was in St. Pete, was remarking about, oh, do you all recall the service worker that got killed? And then we were able to locate the killer really quick, which it was a domestic dispute. And so it wasn't like a lot of other people's lives were in danger. But yes, we want to get the criminal off the street as soon as possible. They were able to access flock cameras to do that. And so I'm going to go ahead and play this video. Adjust your volume.
Without ever realizing what it was. A camera mounted. You may have driven past one without ever realizing what it was. A camera mounted on a pole, watching traffic, recording vehicles. It's called a flock camera, and they're becoming an increasing common part of the public safety conversation in Florida. Law enforcement says these cameras can help solve crimes, locate missing people, and find vehicles connected to criminal investigations. And there are cases where that technology has helped investigators.
Block license plate cameras is becoming more common across Florida, but not everyone is convinced they're making communities safer. Today, St. Petersburg police is defending the technology, while critics argue it comes at the cost of privacy. News Channel 8's Cassandra Mishak talked to both sides.
They're designed to help police solve crimes within minutes instead of days. But for some people, these cameras represent something much bigger, their growing concern over privacy.
It's a great tool to keep the city safer. We can solve those crimes right away.
You may have seen them mounted on poles. They're called flock cameras. They automatically photograph passing vehicles from the back and record details like the license plate, make, model, and color.
Flock cameras do not take a picture of who's driving the car. Flock cameras only tell me that that car or that tag number was in the area.
St. Petersburg Police Chief Anthony Holloway says they're not tracking people. They're tracking vehicles connected to crimes, like the suspect's vehicle in the city employee homicide last month.
We were able to go to this technology and we knew the car was heading south from the city. Without that technology, we would have known which direction that person had gone into.
But not everyone accepts that explanation, including Carl Gunn, who calls himself the flock blocker. He's gone viral for his opposition.
These are illegal. They're against the Constitution, and they should be brought down.
He's not only protesting, he's blocking the cameras and believes they create a record of where people travel.
If it was just a screenshot of our tag in one place, I've got nothing wrong with that. But when you travel to another one, they take another picture and another picture and another picture. Now they can track us.
We're not going to affect your privacy. You have a right to do whatever you want to do. But if a crime is being committed, don't you want me to have the tools available that I can possibly find that person that committed that crime in your neighborhood?
And Chief Holloway stands by the fact that these are a great tool in fighting crime and wants to reassure his citizens that they're only used for that. Reporting in St. Pete, Cassandra Mishak, 8 on your side.
Her name.
But there's another question we need to ask. What happens when the technology designed to protect the community is misused? Recent cases are putting that question back in the spotlight. 3 former Georgia deputies were recently arrested after an internal investigation allegedly found they had used flock data to monitor people they knew personally.
Investigations on flock camera misuse are now reaching into central Georgia.
Specifically here in Macon, we've reported several cases across the state within the last few months. 5 Albany officers were arrested and fired in June. 8 Atlanta officers are currently suspended, and Savannah police fired 4 officers and 2 civilian employees this week alone.
Now, 3 Bibb County deputies are facing criminal charges accused of abusing a license plate reader system, which is designed to help them solve crimes.
The sheriff says the deputies used flock cameras to look up people they knew personally, not for investigations. Maggie Fitzgerald joins us live tonight with more after sitting down with Sheriff David Davis this afternoon. Maggie.
Tonight, 3 Bibb deputies remain in the Bibb County Jail after this investigation came to light just a few weeks ago. Now, this internal audit flagged unusual search activity in the Bibb County flock system. Investigators say 3 longtime deputies used the system to look up people they had personal relationships with. And again, they remain in the Bibb County Jail tonight.
Tonight, the Bibb County Sheriff says 3 longtime deputies abused a system designed to help law enforcement find suspects and solve crimes. Cosnavian Stubbs, Tony Lewis, and Joseph Calloway now face criminal charges after an internal audit flagged unusual search activity. Investigators say deputies used the flock system to look up specific license plates of people they had personal relationships with, unconnected to any active cases or investigations.
And in Florida, a Haines City police officer has been accused of using flock technology more than 700 times to track his estranged wife. These cases don't mean every flock search is improper. They do remind us of something important. Technology doesn't create accountability. Here in Pasco County, flock technology is already part of the public safety landscape, and residents have questions about privacy, transparency, and who can access this information. So, Pasco Connect magazine is launching a new series, Flock Watch. Who is watching the watchers? We're going to follow the cameras, the contracts, the policies, the searches, the safeguards, and the investigations. We'll look at where cameras are being installed, who has access to the system, how long information can be retained, and what happens when someone crosses the line. And we're going to watch what happens when law enforcement agencies are asked to explain how this technology is being used. Because this conversation isn't simply about being for or against flock cameras, it's about whether we can have public safety and accountability, whether technology can help investigators without creating unnecessary surveillance, and whether the rules are strong enough to protect people who aren't suspected of a crime. Today, Flock Safety announced new safeguards in response to growing concerns about misuse. The company says it will strengthen auditing, require case codes for searches, and reduce its default data retention period from 30 days to 7. But now comes the question: will those safeguards actually protect the public? That's what we'll be watching. This is Flock Watch from Pasco Connect magazine. We're not just watching the cameras, we're watching the policies, the data, the access, and the accountability. Because if technology is being used in our communities, the community deserves to know how it's being used. Flock Watch, Pasco Connect magazine. We're watching. Are you?
Okay, so you just heard that. I know that was kind of long. Look for the full video to be up on YouTube later this evening if you want to go back and watch it, and I'll try to have it on Facebook by tomorrow. But I do already have more updates to share, and more news stories continue to come out about these things being misused. Now, there was recently a case that happened here in Pasco County. It started here in Pasco County, I'll say that. Basically, a mother of two women was killed by a St. Pete officer. And I think it was ended up being a murder suicide. And so this mother was in Hudson. She had just gone to the beach with her little girls. And the officer showed up and was waiting outside. She had her girls to run inside and call the police. They were able to give the little girls were able to give the officers on the phone, or the operator on the phone, good information. And so the police ended up finding them, but they were both deceased in a murder suicide. So he killed the mother of the two young girls. Those were not his children. Thank God he let them go, and took her off and killed her and killed himself. And we've learned that it was about a television set. We don't know the details of what they were arguing over. I can only imagine that to the family, it really doesn't matter because they're gone. But, it's very sad. And I couldn't help but wonder. And I also saw some comments in the comment sections where people were wondering if flock cameras was used for this, because she had hid herself to get away. and he was able to find her. So, I'm keeping a close eye out on that story, knowing that this all took place, right in our backyard. So, I'll be keeping a close eye on that. I have one additional story to share, then I'm going to go ahead and sign off for tonight. Um, MACA is hosting Faith and HIV Awareness Month, a workshop for faith leaders and public health workers to come together to discuss the stigma around HIV and AIDS. It's going to be an interactive workshop. I'm super excited about just being a part of it. We'll be working with Harm Reduction Anonymous. We partnered with them, so it will be located there. And I'm just looking forward to a great turnout. We're going to have a free lunch that's going to be served. So it's from 11 to 1. So basically, if you got a little lunch break on the last Thursday of this month, you could come in. That's the 27th from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. You could sneak in, grab you a little bite to eat for lunch, and get a little part of this workshop. So I'll be putting the link out very soon for you to RSVP, dropping more information. And I'll also be dropping more videos like the one I'm getting ready to share with you. I want to begin having some conversations leading up to the event. So look out for that. Those will be posted on PascoConnect magazine. So yeah, I'm going to go ahead and play this last video for the evening, and then I'll be back to wrap us up.
Throughout August, MACA is recognizing National Faith HIV/AIDS Awareness Month with a 4-week discussion series exploring the intersection of faith, public health, and compassion. Each week, we'll tackle questions many churches have struggled to discuss openly. Why is HIV still surrounded by stigma? Can churches talk about sexual wellness without compromising their beliefs? Why do so many people delay getting tested? How can faith leaders protect youth while creating safe spaces for honest conversations? We'll also discuss current events making national headlines. Our discussion will focus on accountability, protecting children, preventing abuse, reducing HIV stigma, and understanding why criminal action should never be confused with simply living with HIV. Here's some of the topics we will discuss: the church and HIV, breaking decades of silence; sexual wellness, abstinence, condoms and PrEP. Can faith communities have honest conversations? Stigma hurts, how judgment prevents testing. Know your status, why HIV testing is an act of self-care and community care. Join the conversation. We'll feature local health professionals, community advocates, faith leaders, and people with lived experience to discuss practical ways congregations can support prevention, testing, treatment, and hope. Remember, knowing your HIV status isn't something to fear. It's an act of love for yourself, your family, and your community. Together, let's replace stigma with understanding, fear with facts, and silence with hope. Can faith and public health work together? That's the question we will explore during our upcoming community workshop on Thursday, August 27, 2026 at Harm Reduction Anonymous. This will not be a lecture or a conversation designed to tell anyone what they should believe. Instead, it will be an opportunity for our community to listen, learn, and ask questions, challenge stigma, share ideas, and explore how faith and public health can work together to support healthier communities. The conversation starts before the workshop, so join us for those interactive community conversations on PascoConnect magazine, and then join us August 27th with MACA Harm Reduction Anonymous, your public health community, and those that want to learn more. For more information, email PascoConnect@gmail.com. Know your status, know the facts, seek help when you need it. And remember, knowing the truth about your health does not take away from your worth. It gives you the opportunity to care for yourself and others with greater wisdom, responsibility, and compassion.
Okay, so you can go to pascoconnect.blogspot.com and you can read more on our blog about Faith and National HIV and AIDS Awareness Month, celebrated all August long. Stay tuned for more community conversations. The last thing I wanted to share before we left was there is an update, you guys. There's an update to the property tax discussion we've been talking about over the past couple of weeks, and I want to talk about it. I told you all last week that I would hop into our tax collector office email, I mean, inbox. And so I did that. And I messaged our tax collector, Mike Fasano, let you know what I asked. I said, "Hello, Mr. Fasano. My name is Candice, and we spoke a few weeks ago about the property taxes. There's been an update, and I was wondering if you're able to speak with me about the changes in the language that's needed, and if you feel like this bill will make it on the ballot in time." You know, if you all don't know, the latest update was that some of the wording was going to have to be changed concerning the property taxes. They didn't care for the name of it. You know, they felt like it was misleading on their part. Save our home or something like that. And they're like, no, you're going to have to change this. So that has to be changed. I think things in the introduction has to be changed. They only get a certain amount of time to do it. I was wondering if it was even going to make it on the ballot, you know. So this is what he responded to say. The amendment will be on the ballot in November. The intro language to amendment has been challenged. A judge has ordered the language to be changed. The state has 10 days to make a more fair and understanding language. The governor has agreed. So that was I'm sorry, not Ron DeSantis. Lord, that was Mike Fasano, Pasco County tax collector. That was his response. So I'll be putting that out tomorrow, as well as some additional information um, regarding the statement that he made. So thank you all once again for tuning in. I know this was a short community talk. As I said at the beginning, we were canceled for today, but I did want to at least drop this video to share with you the topics that I wanted to discuss. Community talk, we discuss events and community topics within the community. If you would like to have your event discussed, please email PascoConnect@gmail.com and I will definitely do that. Not a problem at all. We'll put it on our blog to make sure that people know. So, yeah, I'm excited about that. I hated that I had to cancel for this evening, but we'll be back. We'll be back next Thursday, 7 p.m. So join us next week. We will be back. Let's see here. Yeah, we'll be back next week. Join us. for the Anderson Starworth report. We'll be back with another report next week from East and Central Pasco with Valerie Anderson Starworth, welcoming her to PascoConnect magazine family. Man, she's been giving us a lot to talk about over the past couple of weeks. So check out our blog. We have some exciting news stories we were able to post. Shout out to Miss Val. She stayed busy. I didn't even bother her this week. I'll hit her up this weekend and we'll reconvene. So, yeah, I'm excited. Stay tuned for the conversations that's going to be taking place over the next couple of weeks with MACA with Faith and HIV Awareness Month. Yeah, I'm excited about that as well. Going to be having some really cool conversations, asking if, faith and public health can work together. Sometimes people have a hard time getting beyond their faith to seek help for certain things. And we really want to discuss that. So stick around for some of the discussions we're going to be having on PascoConnect magazine. And then join us on August 27th. That's a Thursday from 11 to 1 for a workshop. So, yeah. All right, you guys. That's it for this evening. Follow us, pascoconnect.blogspot.com, and we will see you all next week. Peace.